he shows up bearing beer.
With the
there
beer.
you go.
All right.
There you go. So, hi Frank.
Hey Mike.
How you doing?
Not too bad. How about you?
Great.
Well, welcome to the Intune Guitar Academy. As I was telling Mike before, at the Intune Guitar Academy, we try to maintain an inclusive, open environment. I even talk to drummers.
We all know how dangerous that can be.
Yeah, that can be really dangerous.
That whole inclusion and diversity thing is important nowadays, right?
They have sticks and they can throw things at me, at us. So anyways, the theme of this interview, we have Peggy in the background.
We have an audience in the background.
Audience in the background, our studio audience of one.
Mm-hmm.
Here's to all our fans out there.
There you go, all of our fans. Thank you. There may be a cat joining into the fun at some point.
Nothing wrong with a cat. So anyways, the theme of the video is, I wanted to know, actually I can hear my voice echoing on the drum kit, it's kind of funny. The theme of the video is guitars from a drummer's perspective. So I'm really not going to ask Mike a lot of questions because he's very verbose. He has no problem expressing his opinion. So Mike, let her rip. What do you think about drummers, guitarists and bassists from a drummer's perspective?
It's an interesting, I don't want to say dichotomy, perhaps a paradigm. Dynamic. You know, when you deal with musicians in general, they're all a little bit batshit.
Yeah,
we know that, and they can be very intense and
egotistical,
and there's all kinds of bad things that we can apply to them, but there's a lot of good ones too, because I guess that to become good enough at an instrument that other people want to listen to you play it and other people want to play their instruments with you requires a lot of work, and I have a lot of respect for the amount of energy and knowledge that goes into learning to play the guitar and the bass, both. Because don't make the mistake of thinking that bass is simpler than guitar. It's not. It's just different.
To me, in my opinion, to be a good bassist, you have to be a good guitarist.
There you go.
I don't understand how some bass players don't know how to play guitar.
Yeah, totally agree. So the problem comes when that intensity of focus leads to some really funky situations when you're trying to get a bunch of people together to create something. And you and I have experienced a whole bunch of situations with various guitarists over the years from and sometimes it can be as crazy as, well, the guitarist decides that he just doesn't want to play that song in the playlist that we practiced for the past 6 months and skips over it, or decides, well, no, today we're going to play this song that we haven't practiced, and insists that everybody should know it, and therefore it's easy.
Yeah.
And then, of course, me being the crazy drummer, think of Animal from Muppets, sitting in the background, just sitting there with my arms crossed with my two sticks in my hand and watching all the drama unfold ahead of me, and just saying, I'm in the background here, ready to hit shit with sticks. And
his favorite expression, hitting shit with sticks.
I just like to hit shit with sticks. It's so all that anger management stuff that we go through in different phases of our life, you can get rid of it a lot by playing drums.
Yeah.
And every instrument of the band, including the singer, because the voice is an instrument, and it's one of the most difficult ones to develop, really, because it's not about buying gear or anything like that. You actually have to practice. But one of the interesting things about drums is that the drummer really replaces between 4 and 5 people in a band that would have existed hundreds of years ago. Because the idea being that you can do something different with all 4 of your limbs. So you're playing the bass drum, you're playing the snare, you're playing the cymbals, you're doing the hi-hat, you're keeping the time and all that kind of stuff. Really means that you're really focused on what you're doing in the back. You're trying to keep time. You're also trying to be an equal partner in the song, but then you've got the bass player that you work with very closely, so what they refer to as a rhythm section, right? So a good drummer with a good bassist, that click creates that really solid rhythm section that's just incredible. sometimes you get the guitarist out front and, well, you're doing too many notes, you're not doing enough notes, you're not aligning with what the beat is, you're not following the actual original song. It's completely different,
Keep on talking.
which can be interesting as long as everybody agrees on it. But, there's all sorts of things that it's just can be crazy with what the guitarist ends up doing. And how many times have I been sitting in the back playing the drum, trying to keep the beat, look over at the bassist, and we know that the guitarist is weaving in and out of the actual beat and time signature, and then I'm slowing down a little bit ever so subtly and speeding up ever so subtly and looking at the bassist, and we're both kind of going, okay, well, we're going to see where he ends up and see if we can't come in at the same time. And as an audience, you probably don't notice it happening, but we know it's happening, right?
You say that, but I've seen videos where they talk about Jimi Hendrix, and the genius of Hendrix is that he wasn't tight to the rhythm, tight to the beat.
His phrasing was very different, but the genius of Hendrix in the way that he was phrasing things is kind of like Sinatra in the way that he sang things. The guitarists we've played with aren't Hendrix.
So, like Sinatra, I love Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Not because he's a namesake, but I just love his music. But as a singer, he's probably not the best singer.
No.
But
no, he isn't.
The timing and the phrasing, and then you put it very well when you talk about phrasing.
Yeah.
And then you were talking about how the voice is a musical instrument. I was thinking about a song this afternoon because I also DJ part-time sometimes, and so because of that I listen to a lot of EDM, electronic dance music.
Okay.
Not because I have, it was sort of because I have to, but I started liking it. I mean, David Guetta, I love David Guetta music, and there's one song, David Guetta with Kelly Rowland. It's called When Love Takes Over. And Kelly Rowland is a fantastic singer, and if you listen to that song, it's basically 3 chords, arpeggiated chords. And then the way Kelly Rowland interprets the lyrics and goes through the scales, up an octave, up another octave, down half a step, it's just phenomenal. If you really know music and you listen to her singing, if you know singing, that song is fantastic. Every wedding I go DJ for, I try to blend in that song because I really enjoy that song.
Well, you see, the same thing happens, and the same thing happens with certain drummers. There are drummers that are capable of doing that. And sometimes with drumming, it's not so much about the time signature, but it's about the beat, like the whole 4/4, 8/4, 12/4, 13/4, 3/4, all these different beat signatures that you can use. And there's a lot of songs out there, if you take the time to listen to what the drummer is actually doing in the background, they're not just keeping time. And we've talked about this before, about there's songs where in the drummer's just keeping time. There's a lot of examples of that, for example, in the Eagles. And I'm not trying to put down the Eagles. It's because a lot of the time,
it's not all that exciting.
It's not all that exciting in most of the songs. And one of the big reasons for that is that the drummer was often singing. Yeah. So it's hard to do anything really wild while you're singing. But
Don Henley,
exactly.
And then Lee Von Helm from the band. Even though if you're not a big band fan, to be able to sing songs like
absolutely,
Take a Load Off. Anyway, I can't remember the names of the songs.
Take a Load Off Me.
Take a Load Off Annie, and the way all those songs you hear over and over on classic rock.
Yeah.
Even though they get irritating because they've played so much,
but they're incredible.
They're really good, and because Lee Von Helm was a great drummer. I think he's still alive, and he's also a good singer. And to be able to drum as well as he does and sing, it's incredible.
If you want a modern version of that, it's a very different type of music. But listen to Lady of the Lake by Crown Lands.
I never heard of them.
So it's something for you to look up.
Okay.
The drummer is the singer.
Okay.
We were lucky enough to see them play live a couple of weeks ago. They opened for July Talk, which is another band where the drummer doesn't get enough credit, by the way.
Oh, Phil Collins.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
Phil Collins, amazing singer and amazing drummer.
Exactly, but he was one of the rare ones that could do things a little more complicated while he was still singing, which is extraordinary. So sometimes you get the drummer who wants to keep the time, and that's all that they do. Early Beatles is all about keeping
Ringo
time.
Ringo Starr is a very underrated drummer. Not enough credit goes to how good Ringo Starr is.
But then as you move through the career, and they only really recorded together for 10 years, as you move through the career and the stuff that they did later on, there's also drumming where the drums become an equal partner with the other instruments in the song, and things get much more interesting. And if you're a drummer like I am, or if you're interested in drumming and you listen for some of the subtleties that go into it, the way that it works with the structure of the song, the guitar, the bass, the singing, and all that kind of stuff can be extraordinary. Really good examples are Deep Purple.
Yeah,
the early stuff.
Ian Pace is one of my favorite.
Exactly.
Drummers,
He's just an incredible drummer. You look at, and this is surprising for some people, go back and listen to old Black Sabbath.
Oh my God!
And
Bill
listen
Ward.
to what Bill Ward was doing.
Bill
now,
Ward is a
get
fantastic
over the
drummer.
oh my God, it's Black Sabbath, and it's just dark metal. It's not.
No,
it's really
it's
not.
not. Actually,
go back. It's the exact opposite.
Two of the members from Black Sabbath were devout Catholics.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and a lot of the songs that they were doing at the time were reflecting what they felt was the decay of morals at the end of the 60s in Britain. So it's not what we think it is. Really, it isn't.
Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden.
Exactly.
It's not. They're not worshiping the devil.
No, they're not.
They're warning you against.
And they're telling a story.
Yeah.
So go back and listen to War Pigs.
Oh my God! And then
Iron Man. Exactly.
The riff at the end where they just take off.
Exactly.
To me, Black Sabbath is one of the best bands ever.
So we were talking originally about the drummer's perspective of guitarists, but that's where the drummer's perspective of the guitarist is that we're laying that foundation, and then we're adding layers on top of it that complement what the guitarist and the singer are doing, because they're the ones that are really telling the story. It's not us. There's a couple of very rare exceptions for drums. If you think about, for example, Neil Peart was just incredible what he was doing, obviously, but he was just on another plane.
Yeah, for sure.
And John Bonham, again, go back and listen to Zeppelin and listen to what the drums were doing, the subtleties, the way that they were doing the little things, the beat changes, the signatures and everything that complemented the song. Listen to how on Kashmir, the song, like the guitar has one time signature, the singing has one time signature, and the drums have another time signature, and they weave in and out and they rejoin each other all through the song. It's absolutely incredible how they did that. And that's when it works. But then there's the other situations where
it just doesn't work.
Oh, it just doesn't work.
Sometimes people try to overcomplicate things.
And Frank and you and I have experienced that on several occasions where the guitarist just goes off and does his own thing, and
I've been guilty of it myself.
Well, because you were a guitarist before starting to play bass.
Well, I'm a guitarist first, then a bass player. But you talking about Led Zeppelin, I think Jimmy Page and Robert Plant get far too much credit, because I think John Bonham and John Paul Jones. John Paul Jones is a fantastic musician. If you realize just how good of a musician he is, he wasn't just a bass player.
No.
He was a guitar player and a keyboardist, just like
and
Sting.
a producer,
like Sting,
exactly.
Sting from the Police.
And if you read up about how the first Zeppelin album got recorded, where Jimmy Page was a very well-paid studio musician, session player, with producing all sorts of stuff. He'd been doing it forever. He was in his mid-20s. He'd been trying to get a good band together. He tried to do something with Jeff Beck. It didn't work. He tried to do something with Clapton. It didn't work. And they were all turned in the same circles. And then somebody one day said, "Hey, there's this singer, Robert Plant. You got to check him out. But he's a package deal with his buddy Bonzo, the drummer."
Yeah,
and they,
Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones were from the Midlands, the same place where Black Sabbath was.
Exactly.
And I read the biography of Tony Iommi and of Ozzy, and I started reading Hammer of the Gods. I made it halfway through and I stopped reading it and got distracted. But what weaves into all of this stuff is that guys from Deep Purple, guys from Black Sabbath, guys from Led Zeppelin, and and Jeff Beck, and Eric Clapton, they were all friends, which is fantastic.
They were all in the same circle.
Imagine saying that you're friends with the royalty of British rock.
But then it also brings up the whole notion of what is a band?